Let's get going for sure. So on our agenda today is to really talk about how do we use data to help analyze a team and help us know what actions to take and with who so we could get some better outcomes. So we're going to nerd out a bit today with a dashboard and some good kind of technical data tools, but don't worry if you haven't seen them or used them before, because at the end of our webinar here, we're going to tell you exactly how we can help you with this and make it easy for sure. So we know from talking to you, our clients, that a lot of you have some version of this, which is your leaders have limited time and resources, meaning they cannot spend time equally on everything and with everyone. It'd be nice if they could, but they can't. That's the reality, right? Leaders are busier than ever. So they have to make some choices. Who do I spend what time on, right? There's other challenges, right? Who can do what, right? We know what a team might be doing today, but one of the hard things is to understand who do I have on my team that might be capable of more, right? And what does that individually look like? What does it collectively look like? That's hard to gauge sometimes. Data is going to help us with that, for sure. We never have any clients call us and say, hey, great news. This year, we're going to reduce our goals and do 20% less, right? Everyone's got goals, stretch goals, right? In terms of we want to do more or better or improve or grow or whatever the case is. So you get saddled with that. And that is never a pure process, right? It's never a careful examination of the actual market and what your share is and what your organization is, right? Someone backs into a number and says, we're going to grow by 20%, go make it happen, right? And everyone gets their number handed down to them. That's just the reality of how it works, right? So that's a big goals get on our plate. And then we have leaders with good intentions, good leaders, servant leaders who want to do the right thing by their people and their team. And those good intentions can get in the way of success, right? If we're not mindful of it. And we'll talk a little bit about that for sure. What else is going on? What actions should I take? What should I do with whom that would actually move the needle a little bit for me? That might be one of the hardest things. And that's where this approach to driving performance and using data can be an absolute difference maker for a leader and for a team. So those are the things that are happening, right? That's what lots of your leaders have on their mind or are trying to work on and figure out. And so you're in the right place, because that's exactly what we're going to deal with today is that. So let's start with this, which is there's good data and research. High performers are on average 400% more productive than an average performer. Some of you may be surprised by that number, others may not be, but let me just say it again, it's important. Your high performers are 4 times more productive than your average people, not your bottom people, right? And if you think about leveraged jobs where they have an outsized impact on the organization, leadership jobs or sales jobs, sure, right? But take it down to IT. What does it mean? A high performer that's a coder in IT is going to do 4 times as many error-free lines of high-quality code as your average person. So part of what we want to do is think about, how do we help our good be excellent, our excellent be better, right? And do some focus on these high performers because of the return you get for them. They're absurd, they're ridiculous in terms of what they will create for your organization. I think we all kind of know this, but when you look at the data, right, and think about 4 times more productive, holy cow, right? What if it isn't 4? What if it's just 3 times more productive or 2? Well, we're still onto something that is a big, big deal in terms of the opportunity here, right? So I want to show you some client data that illustrates this, right? We've changed the names and all the other stuff here to protect the innocent and the guilty and the confidentiality. But we asked this client about high performers and said, do you have good data? And they said, we actually have really good data. And they said their high performers generate $72 an hour in revenue for them, which is about 150 grand a year. Their average people do 24. So all of you math majors out there are doing it in your head and going, it's only 3 times more performance for high versus average. Okay, We'll take that, right? But look at that. They're average people. Average is they're fine, they're solid, they're not on PIPs. HR doesn't know their names very well yet, right? They're doing $49,000 a year. It's $100,000 difference. And then look at the difference between high and low performers. Holy cow, right? That's the math. And I don't care whether this measure is quantitative or qualitative. It adds up for sure, right? So one of the things that we're going to talk about even more in future webinars, but is something to make a point on, is this organization had really high turnover. And they thought, well, the cost of turnover, their turnover was 60% in this group. And they said, if we get it to 40%, 60 to 40% turnover, that's a huge impact. And as you all know, you got to do a heck of a lot of things right to go from 60% turnover to 40. We said to them, what if you got more high performers and avoided, meaning fewer of these red low performers? Here's what the data says, right? An increase of 1 percentage point high performers, which is 8 more high performers in that job and 8 fewer low performers, that's $1 million in additional revenue. That makes $240,000 of reduced turnover earned hard way look trivial. So one thing to think about is when we talk about using the data with discipline, we're talking about making sure, right, on that hardwired stuff, you're going for that high performer and avoiding those really low performers as often as possible. Because you start making a difference of a few here, a few there, it starts to add up in terms of real money, right? So more to come on that. But one thing to think about too is when we kind of talk about data with discipline, this is why. Because you can make an impact with more high performers and fewer lows using data with discipline, hiring, promotion, development, et cetera. So this is just the math in front of you. So let's switch gears for a second while you've got that in mind to say, what about the existing army I have? It's fine to hire more people that have the potential to be high performers or promote, but I've got to do something with the army I have. Yep, exactly. That's what we're going to really talk about and focus on. So many of you have seen this before, right? But as a reminder, we've all got these fixed hardwired assets, behaviors, the things that are on a person's PI behavioral assessment, how they do work, right? Those are fixed hardwired, meaning how Hero has done work and who she is been her for a long time, going to be her for a long time. These things aren't really going to change, right? How long is this behavior and cognitive going to be consistent for? 20 years, maybe her lifetime, right? How she does work, behavior, cognitive, her learning speed or learning agility. I hate that we use the word cognitive because it makes it sound like how smart people are, right? Which is not what it is. It's when it comes to new different, how quickly do they learn? So if we're thinking about how we develop performance, we've got to have a baseline and know on these things that I'm not really going to fix or change, behavioral, cognitive, what is that against the job target or standard of excellence? And then good news, right? Variable things, skills, education, experience, knowledge. Hero's skills, education, experience, knowledge are a snapshot in time, right? Right now. But if she wanted to improve skills, education, experience, knowledge, she could, right? It's not a fait accompli. It's just where it is at the moment. So good news is those are things we can move the needle on. And then the discretionary effort I get from Hero, engagement, right? Initiative, job fit, leadership is going to go a lot back to how well is she wired for the behavioral and cognitive, and how good a job are we doing motivating and playing to her strengths and motivating needs. So when we think about how do we drive better performance, we got to have that in mind. We're dealing with some fixed stuff and some variable stuff. So before I proceed, I just want to pause for a second, see if there's any questions on this. I think you probably are all really well familiar with it, but it's a pretty important concept when we're thinking about diagnosing and driving performance. So any questions? Okay. So we've got a team, we've got an army, right? And we want to know, what can I do to drive performance and enhance performance? So there's 3 things we need to triangulate on if we're going to drive better performance or know what to do with who. The first is, what are the fixed assets they have? Meaning, what's their behavioral, BA, right? Behavioral assessment, cognitive wiring. What does that look like against the job target? Okay, that gives us one piece. Then I need to know the variable. So for the job they're in, what's their education, skill, knowledge, even competencies, right? And whether that is a formal assessment that you do or a more subjective, right? Even qualitative assessment that you do that might be just as simple as they have a high level of competency, skill, knowledge, or a solid or low. That's enough. Even imperfectly, it gives you another piece of the puzzle. And then where's their performance? Again, sometimes it's quantitative. And for our example today, we're going to use a sales example because there's a lot of good quantitative data there. It doesn't have to be. It could be very qualitative. Again, it might be just as simple as their performance is high, solid, and low. That's okay. That gives you enough to go on to diagnose, right? And then we have a standard of excellence, right? A job target, behavioral and cognitive job target, is your standard of excellence customized for your org, high performance on behavioral and cognitive. Great. You might have standards of excellence on competencies or skills. Helpful, not totally required, but helpful, right? And if you don't have it, that's okay. What's their variable? Is it high, medium, low? Good. And performance, right? Maybe there's qualitative or quantitative goals for sure. And even if there aren't, most leaders can look and go, you know what? Hero's a high performer, or Hero's a solid performer or low performer. Even a little bit subjective, qualitative is fine. That's okay. It gives us a chance to triangulate and diagnose on, who might we work on and on what. So if you don't have great data on variable and performance, do not hesitate to proceed. We'll help you with that because we're still going to be able to diagnose and get to what we need to for the purposes of this. But those three things, fixed assets, variable, and performance, those things, now we can triangulate and diagnose what's going on. Okay? So any questions before we move on to our little case study scenario here? Okay, well, you guys are going to let me off the hook easy so far. That's all right, right? So here's our situation, right? We've got a leader here, got 8 outside sales reps, and this person has to grow revenue 20% from their current state. Not unusual. And again, our example is sales, but don't worry, it doesn't have to be sales. It could be underwater basket weaving, could be anything you want. It could be qualitative, it could be quantitative, it doesn't matter. But sales is what we're going to use for our example here. And this is pretty common, right? You've got a team of people that are all in the same job, this outside sales rep jobs, and this leader has to get 20% better. So what is going through his head is, who should I focus on? How can I help him improve? And this is where a dashboard approach to this can help make a significant difference. So what do I mean by a dashboard? This dizzying array of data, right? So if you've not seen this before, no problem, right? Let's just walk through. Let's take Tom Peters here, right? So the first item, this target score, is the cognitive job target. The job target wants a cognitive score of 250. And because Tom's 200, he's a bit below the target. He's a yellow on a green, yellow, red spectrum, right? Green is great. It's going to be an asset to the job, right? They're at or above the target. Yellow is close. There's some adjusting going to need to go on, right? And a gray is they're a long ways off from where we need them to be. But on the cognitive, Tom's a yellow, all right? And then we look at Tom's top self-behavioral graph, and here's his graph, and then here's the behavioral job target. And as you can see, then we have the factor combos that the job wants listed in rank order. The first thing the job wants is high A dominance over low C patience. And because there's the most distance between that A and C, we know that factor combo or behavior is the most important one. It got the most input and the most need for that job. So A over C is what the job wants. We go down to Tom and we go, great, he's got it. And you can see all 6 factor combos in order, and you can see how's Tom doing. Well, he's got a great match, right? He's a green. This is wonderful, right? So he's a green on behaviors. He's a yellow on cognitive, the fixed hardwired asset. Tom happened to take this sales skill assessment we have. And for the example of what we're going to use here today, what you should know is that on this sales skill, we're talking variable skill, snapshot of their current consultative sales skill, where they're at the moment, right? They could get better, they could improve. And what you need to know is that this particular skill assessment, which is a real thing we have and use all the time, 60% is the worldwide average. And the people that have taken this have about 15 years of sales experience, 5 years in their current job. They're 42.4 years old. They're not rookies. And the worldwide average is 60. 60, by the way, is not a bad score. 60 is okay. 60 is fine, right? Anyone gets a 60 in life, you feel like you got a D in school, but not on this. A 60 is okay, right? It's the average of everybody who's ever taken it. And then you can see what we have here is revenue goals, right? And you can see kind of January, February, et cetera, and how they're doing to goal, right? So Tom is 75,000 ahead of his goal. He's a high performer. This could be any data you want. It could be qualitative, it could be quantitative. But here's what matters is we have a high performer in Tom, good sales skill at 76, and he's a green on behavior and a yellow on cognitive. So that gives us that triangulation. I've got my fixed assets, cognitive and behavioral against the target, a standard of excellence. Now I know that piece. I've got some skill or competency piece here, and I've got performance. Now I can look at this dashboard and figure out who do I have that has the most potential to increase their performance, and who do I have, right? What should I do with them? And where do I say, I'm probably not going to spend a bunch of time and extra effort on those folks because I'm probably getting about what I'm going to get. We have to go back to the idea that leaders do not have time to do everything equally with everyone. They have to make some choices and prioritize if they're going to drive performance. So, as I mentioned at the top, this is a tool we have that you have access to that we can help you build these on, which we'll talk about at the end. But before I move on, are there any questions about what you're looking at here? Okay. So if I'm the leader and I have to get 20% more performance out of this team, now I need to go in. So Paul, you're asking sales skills score. This is an assessment that we have that measures current consultative selling skill on a 0 to 100% scale, right? So Tom got a 76, and this is a variable asset, meaning it's his current skill. Any one of these folks could learn, practice, improve their sales skills. 60% is a barometer of the average that people do on this, and that 60% is pretty solid. It's not a bad score, in fact, right? If you're one of your folks in sales at a 60, if you went on a ride along with them or listened to them on the phone, you'd go, hey, they're okay. They're not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad at all. There's something to work with here. So when you see scores like 76 and 86, you go, there's pretty good skill already. Not perfect room, but these 56 and 48s are not disasters either. And if you want to look at this assessment or even take it or use it, just reach out to us. We'll let you kick the tires and do some free samples of it with folks. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. High performers, people that are solid, people that are low on their performance. And then we've got their sales skill, this variable piece, and then their hardwired behavior and cognitive versus a job. So I want to figure out who can I get more from? So I'm going to look at a few of these higher performers, right? I've got Tom and I've got Fernando, I've got Linda. Let me start with Fernando. Look at Fernando's results. He's killing it, right? He's an amazing performer. Before a leader sees this data, guess what they're doing with Fernando? They're going, hey, attaboy, Fernando, great job, way to go, killing it, right? He's getting lots of attaboys and recognition for sure. But it's probably unlikely that Fernando is one of my top priorities for improved performance, right? I haven't probably identified him as he's one of my folks that probably could do the most improvement if I focused on him. Here's why. Look at his cognitive. He's a 270 against a job target of 250. Wonderful, green, right? How quickly does he learn new and different? Much better and faster than the job needs him to. His behaviors are a wonderful match for the job, right? Also a green. So then you look at his sales skill and go, Fernando is actually perfectly average, mediocre at the job of selling. Why is he killing it? Because this guy practically came out of the womb built to do this job, right? His cognitive and behavior is fantastic, but his skill is only 64. Meaning, what if we worked on Fernando's skills and this improved? Then this 375 is not his ceiling. It's actually his floor, right? Fernando is kind of getting away with this and excelling because of all this behavioral and cognitive natural muscle. So now what I know is it needs to be a lot more than attaboys for Fernando, because he's one of my people that has the highest potential to improve. And where am I going to work on him? Sales skill, right? Because if that goes to 75 or 80, this number is going up. And so it can't just be attaboys for Fernando, even though he's my best performer, right? Let's look at Linda. She's a 250, great, green for the job, pretty high skill. Okay, and she's there. Already at an 86. Does Linda have room to improve? Yep, she does, right? 86 is not 100, right? So is she worthy of some effort? Absolutely. If I was to make a choice, if I had to make a choice between Fernando and Linda, where am I going? I'm going to Fernando because there's even more room to improve, right? For sure. But that's not to say that Linda can't get there or wouldn't. High performers are high performers for a reason, yet none of them are perfect, right? Linda already has other stuff, values and work ethic and other things that have gotten her here. And the people most likely to put the work in, improve, and get better are high performers. So Fernando is my number one priority. I probably should spend a little time with Linda too. She's on my list, right? Because she's got room. Look at Tom. He's a 200. Okay, kind of a little bit below the target. He's a green on behaviors. Pretty darn good skill. And you wonder, how come he's not doing even better? This is where it's probably not a skill issue. Look at Tom, 3 sigmas of high B extroversion, and his patience off the charts, 4 sigmas low, right? You know what I need to work with on Tom is probably a little awareness to kind of tuck that B in a little bit, right? And that C a bit. I don't need him to change it. But at the part of the sales process where it's time to slow down, ask questions, and actually listen and shut up, I need Tom to shut up and listen for 10 or 15 minutes at a time. This is not a skill issue as much as it is, I've got to work on coaching Tom and coach him on awareness of not all day, every day, but for 15 minutes, Tom, slow down and shut up a bit. And then that skill is going to come out and this number goes higher. So with Fernando, I'm going to work on skill. With Tom, I'm going to work on coaching and a little bit of awareness of these behaviors, which have served him really well, but are getting in his way and preventing him from probably being great and not just good. So that tells me, right? This extreme behavior, I got to probably work on that and just get in for 15 minutes at a time to adjust. Now I've got 2 things to do that are really important. I'm going to work on skill with Fernando, and I'm going to work on coaching Tom a bit situationally to adjust his behaviors. And I am not going to ignore Linda, right? These are not people who are giving me everything they can. They're people who are doing really well and with the right approach can give me better. So that's pretty simple start, right? Again, who's most likely to work hard and improve? Your high performers. None of them are perfect, right? They're the ones most likely to put the work in, most likely to be responsive. So let's look at my low performers and go, do I have something here? Here's Marcus, right? Before the leader sees this data, right, behavior and cognitive, look at Marcus's sales skill, 56. Like we said before, 56 is not a disaster. If you listen to Marcus on the phone with customers or went on a ride along, at 56, you'd go, okay, not too bad, right? And look at his behaviors here. What does Marcus do? He is the most conscientious, responsible, follow-up, follow-through, dot I's, cross T's guy you have, right? You say, Marcus, I need 3 big backflips in the parking lot. He goes, you got it, boss, and he goes and does it, right? Everyone loves Marcus, right, with his B over A, low A, helpful. And when Marcus says he'll do something, he does it. So what you see in Marcus before you see the data is professionalism and try, right? And the super conscientious guy. And then you listen to him on the phone and you go, he's not bad. And you get a caring leader, right? Who goes, I think if I just work on Marcus, I'll get him to turn the corner. and I can really help him. And look at his results. Is he getting attention from his boss? You better believe it, right? And whoever the leader of this team is, they're getting heat from their boss saying, what are you doing about Marcus? He's killing us. Fix Marcus. And the leader goes, no, Marcus is a great guy. I care about Marcus. And I've seen just enough that hope is my strategy for Marcus. If I just coach him and work on him, I'll get him there. His cognitive is well below the target of the job. His behaviors are the opposite of the job. You could work on Marcus's skill till the cows come home, right? And with Herculean effort, it might get to half this bad. And that's not winning, right? Similar story with Mona, right? And even to an extent, Gabby. I hope you like what you're getting, because it's probably about what you're going to get, right? But Marcus is the ultimate, like, I see this good guy with all this professional try, and if I just help him, I'll get it there. No, you won't. If you really, really like Marcus, get him into the right job in your organization where he'll stay forever and be a star. But you cannot have your leaders spending time on the Gabbies, Monas, and Marcuses of the world thinking that they're going to fix it. They're probably not, right? It doesn't mean you treat them cruelly. This is not a list of who to fire. This is a list of saying, I can't have hope as a strategy. Marcus isn't going to turn the corner and magically get good at this job. Even if his skill gets better, it won't be enough. And guess how Marcus goes home every day, right? He's too kind and caring to kick the dog, so he goes home and kicks himself. He hates this job. He's miserable. Why does he keep doing it? Because he's this conscientious, amazing guy, right? Put him in the right job. You start talking about Marcus the right way. He's a star. Thank goodness we have him. But trying to fix things when the behavioral and cognitive isn't there is fool's errand, right? You might move the needle a little bit with Herculean magical effort, and that's not winning, right? So now we have a list for this leader to go, stop spending extra time trying to fix Marcus. It isn't going to work. You're just making him miserable. Here's our next category, right? Which is when you say, how am I going to coach Tom? Part of what the dashboard will do is give you their strongest motivating needs. High B, inclusion, right? Opportunities to interact, influence others, think out loud, be in on things, have their opinion sought. Low C, action, variety, right? Put pressure on multiple priorities. It starts to give you some ideas about how do I coach and motivate Tom? What's going to be important to him as I'm trying to help him slow down, shut up, listen a little bit for 10 or 15 minutes. Right? The dashboard is going to tell you these kind of things. And sometimes leaders have a hard time with, I don't know how to coach my high performers. I'm not sure what to do. They're really, really good. In the PI software, there's a beautiful tool called the coaching guide, right? And it compares Tom to the job. Look at his low C. It knows that the job wants low C, but his is even lower. So these are questions. Tom, how could you be a little more deliberate? What does go slow to go fast mean to you, right? A 4 sigma low C, you ask him that question and he's going to give you a puzzled look going, nothing. It doesn't mean anything. I go fast on everything, right? But it starts to give you an opportunity to have a conversation and raise questions with Tom. So he's part of working on it. His high B, Tom, how could you limit or hold back your natural tendency to be talkative and social? Guess what he wants to do? Talk and present, and not ask enough questions, right? And there's other things on extroversion because it knows his B is a little higher than the job needs. His C is a little lower. So these coaching guides are particularly effective with how do we help leaders coach high performers? And not just high performers, anyone. But leaders struggle with, I don't know what to do with these high performers. They're so darn good. Get out the coaching guide. Look at where you're seeing the performance gaps and have a sit-down conversation. The idea is you might work on one thing at a time with Tom, right? We're not going to work on 4 things. No one can do that. If the extroversion is the big deal, you're going to talk with him about the extroversion and find one thing he's going to start working on and practicing on, right? Or if the low patience is the thing, we're going to start there. And when that gets to a good place, then you might move to the other one. But these coaching guides do the important thing, which is get the employee as part of the conversation and helping create what the solution or the action is, right? Leaders don't have to have the answers. They have to have good questions. And then we can let people own what they help create as the solution, for sure. All right. So now let's go to some of our okay performers, right? They're solid. They're okay, right? You got Jerry here. He's a yellow for the cognitive, yellow for the behavioral. Skills okay. And he's not doing terrible. He's not doing great. He's 48K below his goal. Again, is Jerry going to be the top priority for this leader? I don't think so. And I'm not saying ignore and abuse Jerry, right? You're going to treat Jerry well and with respect, et cetera. But where are you going to put the extra effort? Probably on a Fred. Look at Fred. He's got a cognitive of 250 right on the mark. Behaviors are really good for the job. His sales skill is mediocre, and he's just above where we need him to be, right? He's doing okay. Fred is a high potential opportunity. Why? Because his hard wiring, cognitive, and behavior is a really good fit for the job. And then there's another fact on his sales skill. And whether this was competency or skill or experience, he's in that middle. He's okay, right? Okay on variable is kind of a green light to say there's room. What if we worked on his skill or competency or knowledge? With the right wiring, Fred becomes one of those other folks, like some of our high performers we just talked about, where you go, this guy's got potential to give me a lot more because his hard wiring says he could do it. So what should the leader be focused on? Figuring out where Fred's just okay on his variables, in this case, sales skill. And then I'm going to work on and coach to that. How am I going to coach to that? How am I going to work on that? I'm going to look at his motivating needs, his high A and low D, and let the software and the tools tell me a little bit about that answer, right? So now I know how to go about it. With that high A, as many of you know, right, the motivating need is outcomes, and they love winning and they hate losing, right? And Fred's got this high A. So what am I going to do? Challenge him directly, right? I'm going to tell him his skill is pretty mediocre. And I'm kind of sick and tired of watching mediocre. And I'm going to tell Fred I thought he liked winning. And I thought he really hated losing. And that I want to see him kick it in gear and get a lot better at this so he can be at the top of the leaderboard, right? I'm going to push him and shove him a little bit. And he's going to go out of my office and go, rah, 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 rah. He's going to go, watch this. I'll show you, right? I've thrown down the gauntlet on sales skill. And it's not just that, but that's how I'm going to motivate him. What outcomes does Fred want? He wants to win. He hates to lose, right? He likes to be challenged. So I'm going to pull no punches about the fact that I see his sales skill is pretty mediocre. And if he can increase it, he could really start winning around here and get whatever you want, right, Fred? But Fred gets on my list of people. So now instead of I've got to spend time on 8 people equally, what I've got is a list of 4, right? Fernando, I'm going to work on his skill very specifically. Tom, I'm going to work on his super high B and super low C and a little bit of behavioral coaching. Fred, I'm going to work on his sales skill, right? And then Linda, I'm going to look at and think about where is she strong, where is she not, and how do I start building a little bit of a plan with her? And this leader should do those 4 things very, very specifically and spend an extra amount of time, quality and depth on those things, because now that leader is spending extra time on the people that have the most potential to improve their performance. So these dashboards help you diagnose. Who do I have that could do more? What areas should I work on? And then a little bit of how, meaning play to their strengths and their behaviors and their motivating needs. And now I'm singing the right tune for sure. So that gets us from 8 people I got to do everything with to 4 I'm going to do specific things with. Now a leader could do that, right? And it's not just what you're going to do, it's what you stop doing. Stop trying to save Marcus. Stop putting inordinate effort into saving Marcus because it is not going to work, right? So the dashboard that you've seen here is just Excel with color. The MindWire analytics platform that you all have access to, it's part of your subscription. And this tool is something just like your PI software. It's something we MindWire developed very specifically for clients. It's all part of your subscription. You can add users, as many users as you want, all kinds of different access levels. But the really important thing is it'll give you this kind of display, right? So I'm going to do this dangerous thing, which is go to it and show you what it looks like in real time, right? So here's a sample dashboard, and here's Fernando that we just talked about. So when I hover over Fernando's cognitive, it tells me what to think. Excuse me, let me move that over a little bit, about the fact that his cognitive is a 360, right? Just make that a little smaller. Says his learning speed is likely going to be an asset and more likely to overcome knowledge, skill, experience gaps quickly because it's comparing it to the job target of 250. So what does that 250 mean? You hover and it tells you, right? Another person has a 220. It's a yellow. What do I think about a yellow on cognitive? It helps you know what to think about that, right? Here's the job target here. Whoops, sorry. Here's the job target. What are the behaviors the job needs? It's these factor combos in this specific order, right? A over C has got the biggest distance between them. So in other words, when we built the job target, that high A, low C got the most input and attention. The second is B over C. What's that B over C thing again? It's this. It's quick to connect. So there's a definition of each factor combo. And then I can look at Fernando and it will tell me his motivating needs. High B inclusion, right? Low C action. I can go down here to someone else, right? Jerry, and what is it going to say? High D, no mistakes. Low C, bias for action. If I know the two strongest motivating needs, I know something about how to engage with a Jerry or whomever. And then it will go through, right? It says Mona's got a C over A. What does that mean? Well, she's responsive. And it's going to look like this. And what did the job want again? A over C, proactive. Okay. Now you can explain it to someone not PI trained, right, who may not be expert in this, and have a good conversation, plain English. And it's going to give me for Fernando his factor combo overall match, his cognitive match. What's also beautiful is you can put performance data in here, qualitative, quantitative, any data you want, and upload it right into this dashboard, right? Even performance ratings of low or effective or high, if you'd like to. You can put a location in, even their start date, and it will calculate tenure. And where you see all these little arrows, you can sort by that. You can sort by, show me all the greens on cognitive or greens on behavioral, or show me all the high performers in a group, right? So this dashboard will pull in the job target data, the cognitive data, behavioral data, right from your PI software. And then you just use an Excel spreadsheet for some of this data you might like to customize, right? And then you can do all sorts of sorting in fields. And if you don't want to have current skill on there, you can take it off, right? So Paul, in this example, here's the current skill for Fernando. He's at a 64. And on the sales skill, it's telling you at a 64, likely some areas of strength and areas for real improvement, right? At a 44, right, what's it telling you? Likely that you got a lot of room to get better, for sure. So this is called the MindWire Analytics platform. And this is just a demo of that. You all have access to this. There's no charge to use this dashboard. You can build as many as you want. Yeah, Paul, open, investigate, present, confirm position is from the sales skill assessment. There's 5 categories on the sales skill assessment. Each one is ranked from a 0 to 5 score, 0 being not great at all, right? 3 being solid, some areas helping, some room for improvement, a 4 or 5 meaning probably a good asset, if you will, for sure.
And
So
a
the
reminder
sales
that if
skill
we're
measurement.
not looking at sales, we can replace this current skill columns with your own metrics or your own assessment results for any skills or KPIs that you guys measure. So that part's customizable.
Yep. We're just trying to get, that's a great point. Thank you, Hero. We're just trying to get some sense of the variable. It might be skills, it might be competencies, it might be other information. And performance data, again, this could be qualitative or quantitative, but if you wanted to put into skill, high, medium, low, subjectively, and that's it, no problem. If you wanted to put into performance, high, medium, low, subjectively, no problem. That's enough, again, to use that, right? skill or competency and performance, even if qualitative or subjective, along with the other stuff, to do exactly what we just did, which is to find the Fernandos and the Toms, right? And those others that we really want to work on. And there's not just a performance dashboard, there's also a succession dashboard, which has a 9-box in it, among other things that you can customize. So you could start using this as a way to have meaningful and improve your succession decisions for sure. So this is, again, I want to just say it, all of you have access to this. It doesn't cost you a dime. If you've not built a dashboard or used it at all, let us help you, right? We're going to help you. It's part of your MindWire subscription. And we built this because we felt like clients wanted it and we benefit from it. So it's a proprietary thing we built, but because you're working with us, you get to use it unlimited, right? For sure. So back to this for a second, right? Which is, where do we start? If you want to do this, what we want to do is say, how do we find those high performers and high potentials? High potentials in a framework of who could perform even better than they are today. So that's the first thing we do with a dashboard. And why are we doing this? Because we have to give leaders some insights. They can't spend equal time on everyone. We have to give them the 3 or 4 people that if they spent time doing these things would get lift, right? It is not easy to be a leader today, as you know. They have more on their plate than ever. So if we can simplify things, what to do and start and what to stop spending time on, we can help them win. And what are we going to look for? Where is it that we coach behaviors? Where might there be an opportunity to improve skills or competency? What is the 1 or 2 things, not 10, that would move the needle? That's what we're looking for. We're going to help Fernando improve his skill. And we're going to work on Tom on his super high B and his extremely low C and just coach him a bit, right? That's doable for sure. So how? We're going to work on the skill or skills, right? Or competency or whatever that would have the greatest impact. And we're going to look at, wow, Tom's B is so high and his C is so low. We got to help him rein that in a little bit with a coaching guy to help him build the target. So what to do? Here's how people have success with this is start with one team, right? Maybe you've got a leader or maybe you've got a team where you go, man, I think this could help. Let's start with one team and we'll actually help you build the dashboard, meaning set it up, get the data inputted, get it connected, right? Get the right access that you want. And then we're going to sit down with you and help you diagnose it just like we did there, but in more depth and more detail so that what you have is an action plan. What exactly are we going to do with who? What are the starts and what are we going to stop doing, right? And I want to reemphasize, this is never a let's find out who the bad people are to fire. You already know Marcus is struggling. What you now know is hope is not around the corner. And with a little more coaching, Marcus isn't going to make it. But you also know Marcus is a great guy, and I love his attitude and work ethic. And we got him into the right job. We could have a star on our hands who would stay and be wonderful for a long time. More importantly, how do we go find the Toms and the Fernandos, et cetera, and do the right things there? So we will help you do this step by step and make sure that you get it all the way from built to diagnose to a really good action plan. And if that means we work with, if you're an HR person, we work with you behind the scenes to get it done, then we'll sit with you and that leader to do a walkthrough with you, right? Why do we say one team? Because one team is doable. And once you get one team and you see the process, you're probably going to be even more confident about doing a second and a third. And we'll help you do a second or a third until you go, hey guys, I got it. I'm ready to run, right? But let's make it manageable. One team, and you can test this out, low risk, easy, and see the impact. Because I guarantee if you've got leaders that have performance goals, this is a way to help cut through the fog of war for them and go, aha, that I can do. This makes sense, right? I now have a way to diagnose my army, and you will be a hero for them. So start with one team and let us help you, because we'll help you soup to nuts, and it will be effective and successful. Promise you. It's one of the most impactful uses of this data is to help do this for sure. So let me pause there for a second and see if you have any questions about that. Just reach out to your consultant, whoever it is. These are some of us, not all of us, are bright, smiling, shining faces ready to help you, right? And I think you know, but I'll repeat it. We're not attorneys. You don't pay us by the minute or the hour. You have us on your bench, right? For unlimited support means unlimited support. Call us, we'll help you do this, right? And if it takes some hours, great. This is what we do. We're super nerdy, right? This is our life. We love this stuff. We want to talk to you about it. We want to help you with it for sure. So don't hesitate, because we're going to make this easy for you and your leaders and have them go wow. No doubt about it. Questions? Paul, at least since you've got some excitement out there, I'm hoping others do too, which is wonderful. And if you want to try our sales skill assessment, no problem. We'll send it to you. It's a 25-minute assessment on average. It's not timed. And it measures current consultative selling skill. We also have an influencing version for people that aren't in sales, right? Maybe they work with other groups internally and they have to influence others. Great way to get their influencing skill, right? Anyone that's worked in an organization, right? Part of your success is based on how do I influence others without authority, for sure. So an influencing assessment is part of our repertoire of skills assessments. And it's a great one for anyone not in sales, right? If they actually work with other humans, great. Finance, IT, whatever. And this will be recorded and sent out to everybody for sure. So what's on deck? So today we talked about a team of people who are in the same job. Many of you are working with or on or leading teams where you have maybe it's cross-function, or you just have a department where there's a bunch of different roles on the team. So next we're going to talk about that, which is how do we take a cross-functional team and help that team increase their effectiveness together, right? And increase their performance and know who do we have that could be great at what? What are our strengths? What are our gaps as a team? And how do we take action to address that? The second part of it is you have a strategy, you have goals for this team. How do we look at that team and understand against those goals what they might be good at, where they might have gaps, and how to take a few simple actions to more effectively achieve their goals. So this is I've got a group of incumbents with a similar job. The next one is our design tools, which is all about team performance, from helping an existing team be better to even shudder the thought, how do we create a good team, right? Teams get built for a reason, especially cross-functional teams or teams that are working on projects or initiatives. Hey, we want to conquer this initiative. Let's put a group of people together to do that. And what happens is that group of people is usually put together based on the usual suspects who get asked to do everything because they're amazing and or their functional title, without much thought towards, is that composition of humans actually well suited to achieve the goal that they wanted to achieve, right? So just as an example, we have a client who was working on a massive complete system overhaul. They're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to go from current state to this new system. And so they built a team to do this. And they called us happily and said, what do you think about our team? And what we found was they had a bunch of super high quality, super thoughtful, right? High D, high C folks on this team, low A's as well. And it was loaded up with subject matter experts who had that profile. And they said, what do you think? And we said, how long do you have for the project to get completed? And they said 18 months. And we said, my God, you're in big trouble because you'll have a perfect system maybe in 10 years, right? But man, it will be flawless when you arrive at the finish line. They didn't have enough people who were going to make risk-based decisions and push fast enough and hard enough for them to even have a fighting chance to arrive on time. Quality, no problem. On time, disaster looming. So not only that, right, we're able to say, yikes, we got to put some pushers and shovers on this team. But when we do, you can all imagine how that's going to go, right? Not great unless we help them understand the collective strengths and how they can be effective together using this tool. So happy ending is they put some pushers and shovers on the team, got them figuring out how to work together and got back on track. So it's not just existing teams, but even how could I form a team that is actually built to excel at the job at hand? And that's going to be our next webinar, which, yes, drum roll please, March 15th. right? And we'll cover that, some of the best uses for existing teams and how the tool works, as well as some other use cases about how could we construct teams, or when we have teams with gaps, how do we go find some people that would be really well wired to bring strengths the team needs to the equation. And then our April webinar will be about engagement. A lot of you are doing quarterly check-ins, quarterly performance evals, quarterly goals, some version of that where you're wanting to do more feedback more contemporaneously with folks. And we're going to talk about how can you use a couple of really good PI tools with your leaders in a super simple way to help make those kind of conversations more effective and drive engagement. So that's what's coming up. Hero has got in the chat a registration for our next webinar. If you have any questions or you want to talk more about this, Hero and I will hang out as always and answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, please reach out to your consultant at MindWire and help us get you going on a dashboard, right? If you're 25% certain you need to do this, give it a shot. There is no downside. No one will be harmed in the process, I promise you, right? And the value your leaders will get is pretty extraordinary. And we'll help you get good so you can feel like, okay, I can run with this now, for sure. You've got the tool, you've got the capability, you've got us on your bench. So we're eager to help you. But thank you all for joining today. We always appreciate, respect your time, and give us a call, give us an email, let us know how we can help. Otherwise, we'll see you in March for more darn fun.